Hi, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and get started now. Thank you all for joining us for today's webinar, Academic ESG Research, Enhancing Green Building Practices in Illinois. My name is Twyla Neely-Strite, and I'm the Education and Operations Associate at Illinois Green Alliance. Today's program was put on by the Illinois Green Alliance Programs Committee, a volunteer group that coordinates education events covering a wide range of topics throughout the year for the green building industry. The team that organized today's event consists of Matheos Aravosis, Madeline Stanton, and Kate Anderson. You've all been muted upon entry, so please type any questions you have into the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, and we'll get them answered at the end. For those who are unfamiliar, Illinois Green Alliance is a membership-driven nonprofit organization that advances green buildings and sustainable communities for all. Our 5-year strategic plan pushes the green building industry to meet or get on the path to net zero. We achieve this work through education events such as panels and building tours, by engaging communities and partnering with organizations across Illinois, and by advocating for new policies and legislation. Members can view our recorded webinars on our on-demand webinar library and learn more about membership and see upcoming events by visiting our website, illinoisgreenalliance.org. I also want to take a quick moment to recognize Illinois Green Alliance's sustaining sponsors who make our work possible. A special thank you to our gold level sponsors, ComEd, Sloan, and USGBC. Make a commitment to advancing green buildings in communities across the state by starting a conversation about sponsorship partnership today at illinoisgreenalliance.org/sponsorship. I'm now going to pass it over to today's moderator, Dr. Mohammed Haidarinejad, Associate Professor at Illinois Institute of Technology, who's going to introduce our speakers.
Thanks, Twyla. Dr. Sarah Ku is an Assistant Professor of Sustainable Business Management at Loyola University Chicago. She holds a joint appointment in the School of Environmental Sustainability and Cullen School of Business. Her research examines sustainability and equity in business, and she's particularly interested in organizational food waste circular strategies through systems thinking and insights at innovative opportunities. Dr. Mehdi Ashairi is an architect, engineer, researcher, and educator. He earned his PhD in architecture, technologies of the built environment at Illinois Institute of Technology, IIT, and his research centers at the intersection of sustainability, human systems, and computation in the built environment. Dr. Wenlong Gong is a microgrid manager researcher. He brings over 10 years of experience with microgrid design and operation, renewable energy integration, storage system integration, and demand-side energy management system design and installation. He has worked on multiple DOE-funded and utility-funded microgrid and renewable projects in the US. After we hear from our speakers, I will lead an audience Q&A. Remember to add your questions to the Q&A function throughout the program so that our speakers and I can address them at the end. Now I'm going to pass things over to our speakers to get us started.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Ku. I'm Assistant Professor of Sustainable Business Management at Loyola University Chicago. And we can go ahead and skip over to the next slide. I want to thank you all for inviting me to speak at this talk. I actually don't personally have specific expertise in building, but I do teach sustainable business management and different design strategies and things. So my areas are in sustainable food, food waste, and circularity. And I attended a COB workshop in Tennessee last year with a colleague of mine where we were experimenting with incorporating biochar into sustainable building material. So cob is a material of clay, sand, straw, and water used to build different structures. It's a very common type of building material in different cultures across the world for many generations. And it's one that is sort of not really incorporated a whole lot in terms of permitting and policies and things with regulation concerns and things like that, mainly because there's a lot of variation in the material and stuff. But it's a very interesting type of building material that can be used to help mimic sort of some qualities of nature in terms of fire resistance and sort of breathability, so that moisture doesn't get retained in buildings and stuff. So I'll be talking more of on a broad level and a bigger picture kind of a scale in terms of sustainable building, and hopefully that'll help to sort of kick us off for this conversation. If you want to skip to the next slide here. So in terms of wanting to have green buildings, I hear a lot about, just sort of retrofitting roofs and things as green roofs and rooftop gardens and stuff like that. And I just want to sort of start out the conversation stressing that that's not all green building is or can be. And there's a lot of actually other considerations that need to be discussed when even incorporating something like a green roof. Soil and water are tremendously heavy, and unless a roof is structurally designed to support that kind of a weight, it's not really something you can just easily retrofit and just sort of slap onto the top of a building. There's a lot of other things that need to be considered, and so it's important to talk with others. And so to sort of kickstart this off, I wanted to share some other opportunities of what green building could look like. We can go to the next slide. Great. So sustainable buildings can mean a lot of different things, and I share this sort of this list of things not to be an exhaustive or exclusive list, but just as sort of some examples to get us sort of thinking about some different ways in which sustainable buildings can look like. So there's a possibility of coexisting with nature and sort of incorporating different climbing vines. These are pictures from some travels that I did this past summer in Asia and Europe. And you can see sort of the bottom left pictures over here. They incorporate some climbing vines into the building. Here in Chicago, we noticed that ivy and stuff grows on in buildings, which I think is very pretty, but it's also really can be very damaging to the structure and integrity of the buildings. And so a way to sort of go around that is, if you notice, it's a little hard to see, but there's sort of these cages, these metal lattices and structures that can be incorporated sort of on the outside of the building so that they don't hurt the integrity of the buildings, but they can still sort of be incorporated into nature and into what's around. Designing within restrictions, we talk a lot about sustainable buildings in urban spaces in particular, and so using sort of vertical space rather than horizontal can be a really great use of space. It's a little hard to see, but the image, this third image from China, is the use of basically sort of, instead of a parking deck or a parking lot, these are parking spaces that basically can incorporate some of the vertical spaces to shift around cars in a parking lot for storage. Biomimicry can be, it's a term that can use nature for inspiration. So I don't have a picture of this, but some buildings can incorporate how termite mounds are designed to use to basically incorporate ventilation and airflow into a building. And so sort of leveraging what we can learn from nature and how nature has really wonderful designs that already exist. How can we learn from that and incorporate those kinds of designs into our buildings without having to use maybe excessive amounts of energy or electricity in order to cool and heat buildings? But what can we do to sort of incorporate what we can learn from nature to be able to design our buildings a little bit better? Also using natural building materials like cob, which is what I was talking about earlier on. In Mexico, wattle and daub is a type of basically using stick lattices and structures incorporated with clay to be able to create buildings. It's a little difficult in a setting like Chicago in terms of needing insulation and very good protection from winter, but there's just a lot of other types of ways in which we can look at sustainable building that, again, this is not meant to be an exhaustive or exclusive list, but just to get our sort of minds sort of inspired with certain different things. So if we skip to the other slide, I'd like to talk about an example of I don't want to critique this building too much. This is I don't know if anybody has heard of the Candida building for innovative sustainable design. It's a building that was built some years ago, and it was opened in 2019. It's in Atlanta. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. And it was considered the greenest classroom building in the United States. There's $25 million that went into the design and construction of this building. It's a gorgeous building, and it has a lot of really cool features in terms of rainwater management, composting, foam toilets where they have microbes in the basement of the building, so they process all of the sewage and stuff in-house. They locally sourced a lot of their materials and used salvage materials. And so even though there's a tremendous amount of money that went into this design, they did save a lot of money by trying to incorporate locally sourced materials and salvage materials and stuff as well. But so I wanted to highlight this building as an opportunity for looking at design and what it could be. But it is also very expensive. That's not something that can be sort of necessarily overlooked. But if you skip to the next slide, I just wanted to highlight they had a public Zoom in 2021, a couple of years after they opened the building, to discuss some of the lessons that they learned from designing this really wonderfully sustainable building. So there were some pretty big oversights that they had. One was that their electrical components were, when designing this building, they were sort of trying to figure out where to put these and make sure that they were sort of out of the way, but still you could access them. And unfortunately, they were located under the gutter cleaning of the rooftop of the building. And we know that electricity and water don't mix. It's pretty dangerous to put your electrical components under a possible risky situation of cleaning out gutters and having water fall onto these electrical components. And so that was a pretty big oversight. The other main oversight of this building was that they had an underground cistern. So in the basement of the building, they had 50,000 gallons of water that were in the basement. And the reason that they chose to do this cistern underground instead of having like a separate cistern located next to the building that was above ground is they thought it'd be an eyesore. They really didn't want to have this like huge structure that was next to this, building that they wanted to have so beautiful. They didn't want this like big cistern tank outside of it. But unfortunately, what that meant was that they're having leaking problems. And these images, I want to be clear, are not from Candida. As far as I know, they haven't had any major damage from leaks yet, but it's in the middle of Atlanta in an urban space, and there's if you have this amount of water that is leaking out into the area around it, then there are some really big possibilities of problems. And so I wanted to highlight this is what could happen, and so this is something that really needs to be considered. And thought it was a really sort of a shame that in order to sort of make it not an eyesore, they ended up making this design decision that is really potentially very problematic. They have already had to remove all of the water from this tank and then put it back in, only to find out that the leaks are still happening. And so it's a big problem. But it could have been a real opportunity for, if they had an above ground cistern, to have some local artists come and, paint on it, or to have these sort of grates around the cistern to have it incorporate with vines and stuff like that, and have it be a landmark for the campus. Campuses are notoriously difficult to navigate, and so if you have some kind of big landmark structure like this, then it could be a lot easier to navigate. So sort of a missed opportunity there. If we'll go to the next slide here. I wanted to highlight this as an example to show that it's really important to engage a lot of different stakeholders when having these conversations around buildings. Yes, it's important to have architects. Yes, it's important to have builders and users of a building involved in the conversations. But what we can learn from the Candida building is that the operations manager and the operations of the building was not as considered in the design and construction of this building. And it would have been really important for them to have some decision-making power over what happens in the design of this building in order to make sure that it runs and sustain, we can sustain the facility in a good way. So I wanted to highlight this as an example for things to consider for green building. We go to the next slide. Sorry, I'm talking fast, trying to get a lot of information here. I did want to highlight, there's the building that I'm in right now, our School of Environmental Sustainability here at Loyola University Chicago, up on the edge of Rogers Park in Edgewater. I will be fully transparent here, I haven't spoken with the operators of this building, so I'm not sure what issues that they have for this building in particular. I'm sure we have built issues just like Candida building had as well. But I wanted to highlight that it's important to not just implement sustainability components, but to actually have the operations and the foresight in place to be able to maintain and run these buildings. What we have here in this building is a big greenhouse. We have biodiesel capabilities that happen just downstairs where I'm at right now, where we have our buses that use biodiesel, fat, oil, and grease waste from local restaurants and things like that, converted so that our buses run off of that renewable resource. And the bottom left picture here is geothermal capturing that we have in our building as well. So we utilize the heat from the Earth's core to be able to regulate the temperature of this building. And then we also have a cafe that uses local sourced ingredients and things from the neighboring area for ingredients for food. And so I want to highlight we are doing things here at Loyola, but I do also want to be transparent that this is just one building on the campus. We have 4 different campuses around the Chicago area. And so while this is a great building, it's one that is featured in tours and stuff of bringing people on campus. It is sort of an isolated building on campus. We are doing other things with buildings, but there's always opportunities to learn and grow more from this and expand out. We switch over to the next slide. So I just want to highlight that, if we go back one, that in order to have a sustainable building, yes, there can be a lot of things in terms of the infrastructure and everything, but there's other ways in which to incorporate sustainability into a building. So any building or organization can implement more sustainability in terms of something like improving their waste management streams. These, again, are images from my travels from this summer all over the world, in different parts of Asia and Europe. And there's a lot of source separation of trash separation in terms of the types of materials that go in to the waste streams. And so this is something that a building can implement even if their municipality doesn't have certain types of capabilities. They can partner with other ones that do have some of those capabilities. Dealing with food waste management and organic waste is something that can happen on site or close to a site, even if it's in an urban space. And I'd love to talk more about that with anybody who's interested. I have a little bit limited amount of time, so I don't want to take up too much of it here, but would love to talk with that if there's anybody who's interested in implementing better waste management streams into their building. Go to the next slide here. I also wanted to share, this is something I randomly came across in Warsaw, Poland a couple weeks ago. I was just walking around and I saw this structure, and it's a structure that has a bunch of different mushrooms in the structure, and it's just out there. I don't know a whole lot about this organization or what they're doing, but there's a QR code and a link on this slide if you're interested in learning more about it. But the mushrooms in this shelf unit in the middle of a city are helping to clean the air. And so I wanted to highlight this as an opportunity that even if your building or you're interested in having some impact in terms of sustainability, but maybe you have physical boundaries in terms of what you're able to do within the confines of your own building space or your own facility. There's other ways in which you could sponsor programs like this or sort of partner with your communities in incorporating things like this to be able to help incorporate sustainability into your organization, into your building, even if you have some physical limitations of what you can do on site. So next slide here. So yeah, some of the things that I'm doing in my classes, I teach classes on sustainable business management, circular economies, and systems thinking. I have a really heavy emphasis on all of my classes to help develop soft skills and systems thinking, to help make sure that the students who are coming out into the world and getting out into these spaces with building or just in general, have some bigger picture understandings of how things work in the world and how things interconnect. Things like just basic skills like communication and teamwork and problem solving, like problem solving for how we can make a building more green, even if we have certain limitations, is really good skills to develop into the world. And so I use examples like this in my classroom to try to help stimulate some problem solving and some critical thinking. And these are pictures of taking students to Lakeshore Recycling Services. It's a really cool opportunity. If you ever get an opportunity to check out a materials recycling facility, it's really fascinating to see how things are sorted and where things go, and see what happens. And so trying to do things both in the classroom and outside of the classroom for students to get a better understanding of sustainability in general, sustainability here in Chicago, and how different organizations and buildings can do things differently. So thank you so much for your time. I hope I didn't go too over time here, but please reach out to me. I'm very easy to find and reach out to online. So I hope that this was helpful, and thank you so much for inviting me to talk.
Hey, this is my turn, I think. Thank you for the invitation and having me here to speak, and for the opportunity to share our work we are doing here. I am Mehdi Ashayeri, an assistant professor at Southern Illinois University, or SIU, located in Carbondale, Southern Illinois region. Next slide, please. SIU's mission focuses on embracing a tradition of access and opportunity, fostering inclusive excellence, encouraging innovation in research and creativity, and delivering outstanding teaching to fostering student success. As a nationally ranked public research university and regional economic catalyst, SIUC aims to create and exchange knowledge to shape future leaders, enhance communities, and transform lives. Next slide, please. SIU was home to Richard Buckminster Fuller, a philosopher, engineer, architect, and designer who joined the SIU's design faculty in the mid-20th century. His tenure at SIU was marked by significant contributions to both education and practical projects, leaving a lasting legacy. Fuller is renowned for inventing the geodesic dome, embodying his philosophy of efficient resource use and doing more with less, which gathered worldwide attention in sustainable architecture. Advocating for a design that serves humanity, Fuller's approach to equitable and efficient resource distribution has continued to influence the sustainability movement. Next slide, please. Inspired by Fuller's legacy, we established the Urban Intelligence and Integrity Lab in 2020 at SIU School of Architecture, leveraging emerging technologies such as big data, artificial intelligence, and smart sensing. The lab focuses on promoting energy conservation, human health, and equity in cities to advance sustainability. Specifically, our goals include advancing data-informed decision-making at scales in design of the built environment, promoting urban equity, and improving accessibility to emerging technologies. We particularly emphasize making these technologies accessible to non-STEM fields like architecture and planning by developing tools and platforms that empower students and professionals to integrate innovative research methods into their projects. Next slide, please. So I'm pleased to share our advancements in educational innovation, which focuses on practical applications of new technologies in the field. We've introduced specialized seminar courses, namely Urban Intelligence Systems and Models, Systems Thinking, AI, and Sustainability, among two others, that equip students with the skills to effectively use new methods in their design. These courses prepare them to make data-informed decisions in their projects, specifically master planning design projects that substantially contribute to future urban sustainability. For example, we've developed a series of web-based tools that address AI, GIS, data transformation, and real-time social sensors, data query, and modeling. These tools facilitate the evaluation of real-world human feedback on environmental issues, allowing students to create prototype models for design decision-making. Our commitment to sharing our work extends to global audience through publishing. In April 2024, we released a book titled Artificial Intelligence in Performance-Driven Design, Theories, Methods, and Frameworks, a collaborative effort with AI scholars in the field from around the world. This publication explores AI-enabled methods for enhancing performance-driven design at the scales, featuring 5 chapters contributed by our team, collaborated with the Sustainable Intelligence Lab at College of Built Environments, University of Washington in Seattle. The book aims to provide researchers, professionals, and students with the essential tools and knowledge to advance sustainable design practices. It covers a range of topics from building-level design interventions and generative design frameworks to multi-scale digital twinning and linguistic models, all utilizing AI techniques. Looking forward, our next goal is to strengthen the link between academia and industry. We plan to attain this by forging closer collaborations with industry leaders and engaging in joint research practices that deliver practical results. Next slide, please. Yeah. In one of our ongoing projects, we use social sensing data from platforms like X, along with various AI techniques to analyze both urban energy behavior and feedback in a city scale study. Next slide, please. The map shows the density of social activity represented by dots and the interaction with those posts from across the country in 2021. Depicted by lines. Next slide, please. We focused more on New York City, where the maximum social media activities in the US recorded in 2021. Window A maps tweets posted by users. Window B maps spatial distribution of tweets color-coded by the hour of the day when they were posted. Window D shows the frequency of tweets per user, represented by the size of the circles. Window E distinguishes each individual users by the density of their tweets, and window F adds connection lines between users engaged in same tweet thread, illustrating complex social dynamics of the city. Due to the extensive network of connections, we only displayed 1 month of data. So next slide, please. The project is approached from 2 perspectives: objective or quantitative and subjective or qualitative, as shown on the screen. The subjective framework, left side, examines social sensing data to identify changes in behavioral patterns, while the subjective framework on the right side analyzes the data to capture urban building occupants' feedback and sentiments as a post-occupancy evaluation effort. Next slide, please. From an objective standpoint, we analyze quantitative data such as energy consumption patterns and trends through frequency of using social media and posting patterns, and applying machine learning algorithms. This allows us to understand how electricity energy use is explained across different times of day and areas of the city. Specifically, our findings indicate that tweet posting frequency predicts urban energy use behavior with a high level of accuracy, with Pearson correlation value of 98%. Additionally, we have discovered that AI algorithms are a valuable tool for accurate predictions in this context. Next slide, please. On the other hand, our subjective analysis extract qualitative insights from user comments and sentiments on social media, right side on the screen, leveraging large language models or LLMs based on the transformer deep learning technique. By evaluating public perceptions and concerns about urban building energy features such as heating, air conditioning, and cooling systems, and their correlation with the energy bills of occupants, we gain a deeper insight on how occupant feedback is influenced by individuals' environmental experience and their social status. Additionally, this research explores how gender correlates with energy feedback on various NYC boroughs, uncovering equity issues across different urban zones. Next slide, please. I think it was jumped 2-3 slides. If you back, yeah, one more. Okay, leave it here, that's okay. The next phase of this project, which is currently under implementation, aims to integrate these frameworks with the physics-based urban building energy modeling approaches powered by AI and the Energy Plus engine. This integration will enable the use of social sensing data for what-if scenario analysis across scales to support urban decarbonization efforts for retrofit and new developments. Next slide, please. So in addition to conducting this research, we developed a web-based platform named Integrative Sentiment, or ISIO. This platform integrates both social sensing analytical approaches, offering comprehensive data queries, insights, and visualization. This platform is designed for a wide range of users, including students, researchers, and professionals. Currently deployed as a test used by students, we are working on cybersecurity improvements to make it accessible to the public in the near future. The next couple of slides showcases some of tools selected functionalities. If you just please go to the next slide per 3 or 4 seconds. Yeah, next one. Next one. Yeah. Next one. Next slide. Network analysis. Next slide. Incorporating gender into the decision making, and the next one. I think it's the last one. Yeah. So, and next slide, please. Go to move on to the next project. So yeah, today I also want to introduce our second project, Integrated Energy and Exposure to Ambient Air Pollution Assessment, abbreviated as INX. This initiative aims to understand the energy consumption and health impacts on households, exploring trade-offs for creating healthier buildings and cities, leveraging a vast array of public data, smart sensing data, and machine learning-based spatiotemporal models. INX provides detailed seasonal predictions of particulate pollution exposure, thereby enhancing decision-making for urban design. So next slide, please. This research critically examines the implications of reducing cooling energy costs through sustainable practices like natural ventilation, alongside its potential adverse effects on building occupants, with a keen focus on spatial inequities in modern cities. Natural ventilation is commonly advocated as a cost-effective strategy to decrease cooling loads, particularly relevant in the context of global warming. However, it is crucial to assess its suitability in urban environments with significant particle pollution levels. Next slide, please. Our findings from applying this framework in Chicago reveals that residents in lower income neighborhoods are less likely to benefit from natural ventilation. This disparity arises because these areas often bear a higher burden of air pollution, which compounds the risks associated with opening windows to reduce energy use. Consequently, while wealthier neighborhoods might freely adopt this eco-friendly strategy, the same approach may not be viable in economically disadvantaged areas without addressing the underlying environmental and health inequities. In this research, we also, next slide, please. In this research, we also launched a data dashboard with the same name that allows users to interact with the findings by exploring overlapping energy burdens and health disparities in the design of built environments. This ongoing project is currently investigating connecting the simulated data for physics-based energy modeling and assessment and assessing induced indoor air quality. We are examining what-if scenario for integrated energy and health design. This study highlights the need for urban planning that promotes both sustainability and equitable health outcomes. It recommends customizing policies to meet the unique environmental and social needs of each neighborhood, ensuring that cost-effective cooling strategies benefit all city residents. And the next slide. Please. Yeah, thank you for your time and participation in today's webinar. It's been great sharing these ideas with you, and hope you found the session informative. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Wen Longgong. I'm with the Illinois Institute of Technology, most precisely with the Galvin Center for Electricity Innovation. Next slide. I have a mixed background. So first, I was the energy manager here at Illinois Tech for like 3 years, and then I come back to where I graduated from, which is Galvin Center for Electricity Innovation, and keep doing researches. So my speech will mainly focus on 2 parts. One is the green building practices and researches at Illinois Tech. And the second part will be the obstacles and possible solutions that we found throughout this project. Next slide. Some of the practices that we do here, we have one is one big part and low-hanging fruit is improve energy efficiency, like LED fixtures changing and steam trap survey. The other item will be active monitoring for maintenance and then local power generation to reduce transmission loss. Researches, I highlight two research. One is the AC/DC hybrid power system, and the other one is power quality control utilizing flywheel technology. Next. So here is a more detailed example. Keating Hall, we replace all the conventional fixture into LED fixtures. And I kind of log all these upgrade history. We upgraded 2 times. Before 2016, it was using 189 fluorescent fixture, and the total wattage was 37.8 kilowatt. In 2016, we replaced all these old fixture with 94 LED fixture, and then the total wattage came down to 18.8 kilowatt. It cut down almost half. And then come to 2024, we did another upgrade, and then the LED technology had advanced a lot. Now this time still 94 fixture, but the total wattage came down to 12.2 kilowatts. So compared to before 2016, it cut down power consumption like 2/3. If you can also incorporate like occupancy sensor and daylight sensor to control like during the day, if the fixture next to the windows sensing that it has enough light from the sun, then you can even lower the power consumption. Next. Okay, another energy efficiency project we have done here is replace the on-off starter, the conventional starter, with the variable frequency drive. So I'm talking to the architect here. They tell me most of the old buildings, the motors, the pumps are oversized in the old days, and even the newer buildings with modern models, the motors and pumps, they don't need to run at 100% all the time. So what a frequency drive does, it can adjust the power at the motor to run at any percentage of the rated power. So usually the frequency drive will work with a sensor, like sensing the temperature and water volume, etc. And once the sensor sense that the water volume or the temperature is getting to a specific point, it can lower the pump to the motor pump to a certain percentage, lower than 100%, and keep the motor running at a more efficient way. And this will also save the driving bells. And also, like the normal on and off starter, they usually has moving parts, like mechanic parts, like contactors. Some starter also have like capacitors. So that's a lot of maintenance will go into the conventional starters. With the VFDs, they use semiconductors, and so usually it is less maintenance to replace parts. Next will be steam trap survey and repair. At Illinois Tech, we survey the steam trap every 3 to 5 years for each buildings, and then we repaired any blow through or failed traps after the survey. Another low-hanging fruit is install an insulation for hot water pipe or steam pipe or chilled water pipes. Next. The next big item we're doing is active monitoring for more efficient operation and maintenance. One example is the LED streetlights monitoring. On campus, we have 200 LED streetlights, and every streetlights in the image, if you can see on the right corner, every individual streetlight has this monitoring module and communication module. It will report like the voltage, current, temperature, light level, power quality. So I have a program track every individual fixture every 20 minutes, and it will report like if there is any day burner, meaning like light turning on during the day, or if there's any communication issue or power quality issue. In the old days, we relying on the safety patrol at night to check on the fixture if there's any burn fixture or any fixture that's turning on during the day. Now we don't need to send people to look at this fixture. Just every 20 minutes, I check on this fixture and get a report. So I can send people to do repair like instantly. Next. This one is just proposing. We just propose a upgrade to a chilled water monitoring. So our current system only report BTUs. BTU only shows you the total energy that's used, but it can come from different like variety of combination of the water volume and the temperature difference between the supply and return. So with the BTU only, you cannot tell any problem. We propose to upgrade the system to include the water volume and the delta T monitoring. So with those, for example, if you ever see a small volume of water, but you get a large delta T, then maybe you want to send some maintenance guy to check on pipe insulation or the heat exchangers, something like that. Next. The third one will be like the local power generation to reduce transmission loss. We have solar generation throughout the campus, like Keating Hall building, Stewart Building, Crown Hall, Siegel Hall, and solar canopies for the EV charging station. And we have a 10 kilowatt wind turbine, small one, on a soccer field. And we also have a few standalone streetlights for the remote areas where we don't have a power line going through to those areas, but those are some safety concern spots. So we deploy these standalone streetlights with it has on the picture on the right, it has a wind turbine and solar panel, and also 2 batteries underneath the light bulb. So it's completely standalone. We don't need to change the ground to bring a new cable, or these it saves all the construction materials and labor, and also resolve the safety issue for those remote area. Next. The research, I will show two research here. One is the AC/DC hybrid system. This one is already done in Keating Hall. The basic idea is this: a lot of the low appliances that we're using today are DC load, actually, like the LEDs and our cell phone and tablets. They're all DC internally. And we have generations or DC form, like these PV arrays and batteries. So if we generate DC and then we convert it to AC and send it to the customer, and then the customer needs to convert from AC back to DC and their devices, there's two conversion, and you lost the energy through this conversion twice. So the idea is to power the DC loads directly with DC. So we have these PV array directly power the LEDs in our gymnasium, Keating Hall, and also charging the battery if there is any excessive amount of energy that's not used by the light. And at night, the battery can power out the lights. And also the DC and AC system, they're coupled together through this bidirectional AC to DC converter. So if we have a cloudy day or something, the AC system still be able to convert the AC to to charge to support the DC buses. Next. This one is about the power quality control using flywheel. First, let's not go into too much detail. Just by saying low power quality means low efficiency. So we need to control our power quality throughout a campus in order to get better power efficiency. And to do that, you need a device that's able to rapidly charge and discharging or inject power or absorb power, reactive power. And the conventional battery cannot do that without harming the battery. So we incorporate this flywheel technology. Flywheel is a storage unit that stores kinetic energy on a frictionless rotor and convert the kinetic energy into electricity when supplied to load. It can do rapid charging and discharging and without damaging the storage unit. So this is a good fit to utilize for power quality control. Next. I see I'm running a little bit short on time. I just go over this quickly. The opticals, usually we have two types of opticals. One is financial and second part is technical. Next. So financial opticals, we have three types of solutions. One is go to the incentive programs. ComEd and People's Gas have a large variety of different programs. If you are an institute, then you probably want to contact your account manager, and they will give you very detailed information. Next one will be tax credits, like, for example, the solar investment tax credit. Right now is 30%, I think, and it will go away in, I think it's 10 years. And then the third one apparently is research fundings. Next. I would just go over one example here is like the technical opticals usually is in retrofit projects. When you do retrofitting some structure, you have a lot of limits. Like for example, the Crown Hall rooftop solar, this one is a historic landmark. And so at first they don't want us to put a solar panel on top of it. And then by discussing with the building committee, they say, okay, if people cannot see the solar panels from a distance, then you can put the solar panel on the roof. So we go out and measure the distance and height, and then we concentrate all the solar panels in the middle. I guess I'm running out of time, and thank you. This is it.
Thank you so much. I just want to thank the speakers and the attendees. So please make sure to submit the questions to our speakers using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, as you could see the arrow. Also, we would love to hear your feedback. So please scan the QR code to share your feedback. So with that, let's start the Q&A, being mindful of time. There are a few questions, maybe starting from like the first few for Sarah. The first one is, what research has been done to show potential for damage to different building materials from attached winding plants? How concerned should we really be about winds on different masonry types, especially the one that they are common in Illinois, such as brick or split face block?
Sure, thank you for this question. I'm not sure about this myself. I don't know the research in this area in terms of the building. My understanding of it is through anecdotal talks with people who have houses and have to deal with the damage of their houses on this. So I'll be honest, I don't know the research on this, but it's something that I think could be easily Googled.
Thank you, Sarah. And then the next one is, does third-party verification such as LEED certification assesses for potential operational issues?
And this is where I'm also unfamiliar with specifics on LEED. I know that changes during, it has gone through different evolutions, and there's different sort of ratings in terms of like silver and gold status for LEED certification. And so they've gone through different rounds of methodologies of how they measure a LEED certification building. I'm not sure if the operations of the building goes into it. That would be something that would be, I think, important to incorporate into it if it's not already. But that helps to sort of speak to, it's not just about sort of the design of the materials or where the materials are coming from, or how, where the energy is coming from, but also in the operations. So good question. Thanks.
Thank you. And then before switching to Mehdi and the online question for you, Sarah, like in terms of the waste management, you mentioned like there are a few more aspects that you can elaborate. If you want to pick one or two additional items, what are those that you would like to share with the audience here?
Well, my focus is on food waste management, and that's something to where, regardless of a building and their sort of mission or their industry, every building presumably has people that is in it, whether for a long time or a short time. But organizations have employees who eat food, usually at sometime during their shifts or during their time at a place of at a building. And so there are ways in which a building can incorporate waste management into their structures. There are some limitations in terms of whether a building is located in a place that could basically partner with something like LRS or something for certain recycled materials. But in terms of food waste, food makes up between like 30 and 50% of municipal solid waste. And so it's a pretty substantial amount and percentage of waste from the municipal solid waste stream. And so being able to take that out of the stream and not have it go into landfills where it contributes to methane gas emissions is a substantial opportunity that I think we're not taking advantage of enough.
Cool. Thank you very much. Maybe the next question for Mehdi, like, did you say you were investigating the relationship between gender and green building elements? If so, could you please elaborate on that?
Thank you for the question. So in this research, we didn't explore the green building features, but we overall explored basic building elements like HVAC systems and energy bills based on across genders. And we realized that women working from home have more complaint on comfort level at homes in New York City compared with men. This backs to a couple of
Maybe you're muted if you want. Somehow you got muted.
oh, sorry. Apologize. So thank you for the question. Our project didn't focus on green building features, but we overally investigated some basic building elements like building features like HVAC systems that how people with different genders reacted to. And we found that women working from home have more complaint on HVAC systems than men. And we found a couple of related aspects to that, how they are defined and explained, like back to some socioeconomic features or so on. And some on inequity in gender aspects, we know. So and the tool that we developed, it can explore any sort of terminologies. You can put the term and see how people react to that specific term based on gender and a couple of other aspects like spatial distribution, the name of the city, the timeline, and it shows and calculates the human sentiment against that specific term. But for that research that we've done, we didn't investigate anything about green building features.
Perfect. Thank you, Mehdi. And then the next question for you is the IS.io available to students outside of your university? And then maybe also like if anyone is interested to use that, how would you recommend them to reach out to you?
Yes, it is deployed and we tested in 2 classes that we had in our school at the SIU. But it was internally open to students due to some cybersecurity aspects and sort of some restrictions in cybersecurity aspects of the tool. So we are working on it to open it up to public in the near future in 3-4 months. So everyone can access to that. And please email me and I will provide you more details on the access to the tool.
Perfect. Thank you, Mehdi. And the next question for Winline, do you have recommendations for how an organization can begin the continuous task of energy management?
Thank you for the question. I think for like the one that on top of my head would be knowing your current status. So energy monitoring and trend log will be very important, because if you don't know where you are right now, then your next project, you don't know what kind of improvement you're looking into. For example, like the lighting project that I presented, the example, you know specifically each upgrade you get this much about improvement. And so my first recommendation will be knowing your energy system and know your current status, then move forward. I think a good project to go through this, and I think it's when I was doing that project, it was free, is go through the ComEd's what do you call it, the retro commissioning project. They will hire a consultant. I think it's free, and they'll come to your organization and do a retro commission, like a survey, and then he'll give you a comprehensive report where you can do improvement, this and that. Yeah, that would be my my second recommendation.
Perfect, thank you. And then also maybe another question, could you comment a little bit in terms of maybe like the financial aspects, like the payback period? A lot of time those become a factor. For example, that like one of the projects you talked about, maybe Keating Hall, like when the lighting LEDs, like you 3 times the power reduce, like would you comment a little bit in terms of like how you account for the financial part, and also if there's possible to quantify the payback period?
Okay, this one is since it's a research project, so Keating probably is not a good example for the payback period, because this is a research, and then we didn't do a lot of the finance analysis. But again, come back to the retro commissioning project. I just recommend. And actually, in that report, usually they will give you a payback calculation, and also not only you can also ask them like if one payback is too, like you can mix. The recommendation that I want to say is you can mix up different project with different payback periods, so you can neutralize a lot of some payback period be like 5 years, and some be like a month or half a year, a few months. So you can neutralize this project and get to a acceptable payback period.
Perfect. Thank you. Maybe just opening up the floor for the speakers, if you have any last, thought you would like to share with the audience before we close out the seminar. Perfect. Thank you so much. It was very exciting to see how different pieces came together. Definitely, I enjoyed and learned a lot throughout the presentation. I'll pass it along to Tuila.
Yeah, thank you all. Thank you, viewers, for joining us, and speakers, thank you for sharing your work with us. We'll be sending a recording of this to everyone afterwards, and the contact information of our speakers and the slides. So if you have any further questions, you can reach out. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.